States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone's phone is on vibrate.
No, I don't get calls.
That's what they all say, and then you get a call. Okay, privilege of the floor. All right. Committee reports, are there any?
Are we doing these committee reports? I thought these meetings
this
were
is
just
just
for
a
the
work
sole
session.
purpose.
I know, I thought they were too, but
Well,
I think I'm
the
gonna
new
run
bit.
through the agenda anyway, just in case. But
in
aren't
the
we
future.
supposed to,
Well, we left those on there because I thought we had decided that these were public, just like any
Right,
meeting. And I
yeah.
figured, since I'm not always sure when you guys are meeting as subcommittees, it's easy enough to just run through this list and say nothing, rather than, I don't know, maybe you got together, there'd be something so we figured more information than less for my purposes, really.
The work session is usually for a specific purpose.
Right, and
Is
weren't
it
we,
not?
only
The new project.
Alan Berger tonight?
No, remember,
No,
July.
right,
Yeah.
so-
Okay.
We thought maybe town week.
Right,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna have him until, okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Well, we did have, in relation to the new building, we did have a meeting tonight at 5:30. I don't know when you want us to report about that, but we met with some people from the Washingtonville Library about what they did that seemed to work.
Okay.
So we would either discuss it or schedule a discussion.
Well, that falls under the physical resources new building, wouldn't it? Yeah, so we can discuss that now. Does anyone
Okay.
object to that? No, okay.
Well,
Are you
there are three of us here, and
Okay.
a lot of ideas were bouncing around. Emily, do you want to start with some of the things you noted that were?
Yeah, sure. The two women that came in from Moffett brought us some lovely materials. I'll send them around for all of you. They told us all about the different presentations and ways that they got in touch with the community and how they got the vote out. Obviously, everyone here knows that theirs was successful. Do you want to take a look at those?
Here's the same packet.
What were their actual roles? They were both from the Friends, correct?
One was a trustee.
One was trustee. Yeah.
Bruce
and-
Mannion?
Yeah.
Yes,
Bruce Mannion?
and Kelly. I didn't catch her last name, but
Maloney.
yeah, they were really great. Let me see what else I had written down a few notes here from them, but they also worked with Alan Berger, and in their experience, they thought that he was most definitely worth it. They really listened to what he had to say with regard to. I don't know if this is worth noting or not. They called him their library consultant versus PR person.
Right.
But he really emphasized using Facebook, which obviously is free. They do a weekly e-newsletter. And this is not under Alan Berger, but they did hire someone part-time for web and technology communications. They rolled out a new website, not specifically in conjunction with the voting, but theirs was looking shabby. So there's someone that's part-time on their staff who works on all of that sort of thing. They have their friends group was very active. It didn't seem like I think we talked about this previously, they did not engage like subcommittees or smaller groups to get the vote out. It was strictly between the friends, the more active group of approximately 10 friends who seem to be doing the most legwork on all of this.
Well, Ruth was very active, so she's a member of Friends as well as being, she's vice president, I think, of the board.
They did a series of presentations, and she said, I think it was in like the 18 to 20 number of presentations through different community organizations, like with the Chamber of Commerce. The schools were very, very important. Sports teams.
They went to each PTA in each school.
Yeah, they went to each of those, and they had, I think 2 or 3 of them went, and they brought the renderings, they had their facts and figures, and they just presented everything to these groups.
They had a
and
PowerPoint also.
they had a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
Okay.
When you say they, the members of the Friends, or board members and Friends, or?
I believe so.
It was the director, and a lot of times it was the director and Ruth that went to each one. Occasionally,
And Ruth is the board member, the vice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The director, yeah.
But I
Yeah,
think
the-
there were, sometimes it was Ruth and and one of the friends. I mean, whoever was available when the group was available.
Right, okay. I just
I don't
wasn't
think
sure.
it was rigid.
And they had these materials with them and shared everything.
She said too that the first couple of meetings they went to were actually the village in town, and one of the meetings they actually got a bulk of questions from a
Civics,
from
the civics class?
no
Oh.
from one of the board members
Yeah.
on that level, a series of genuine questions. And then from that, they created a Q&A that's on
I
their
saw that.
website,
That's
and we have a
really
pamphlet here.
This is really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
hold
that's
on
how
to
that
that.
that's how that developed. They actually wrote down each of the questions they had. Didn't respond to it in the meeting
Right.
because actually the board member came to the library board and posed the same questions.
Mhm.
So then they actually generated the Q&A from that, from a lot of those
Very good.
questions. So.
I think that Q&A sheet is going to be invaluable to us, like something along those lines, or
Mhm.
even the plan A, plan B kind of thing with a Q&A. We can discuss what we'll do going ahead, but I thought that was really nice. They also talked about their calling campaign. She had a lot to say about that, and they used an application called SmartVan as their they inputted their database, and they did not buy a list. It sounded like, right? They strictly
It was in Smart. I don't know if the Smart Brand
That
had the
van,
list to
that-
start with,
That had a list in it.
and then based on that, they actually
Okay, so this is what they did. They bought the voter list, which is the list of the phone numbers of people who vote. They then cold called all these people, asked if they had. It was Alan had given them a script, and it was like a couple questions. Have you heard about the referendum coming up, and how would you vote? And if they said yes, then there was a set of questions, and you put them in the yes pile, and you keep that phone number. If they say no, thank you, have a nice day. And it seems clear that Alan, when he came here too, said don't engage the no people,
Mhm.
because you're just not going to change their mind.
How many people did they call?
She said the
thousands.
initial list was a couple of thousand, more than a couple of thousand,
2,600.
2,600.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah.
They
It
started
was-
out, I guess they developed a list of about 1,500 Allens, and it's not enough.
Yeah, they had
Too
the
small word.
they had the huge list, then they whittled it down, and there was a lot of counting on the people within the Friends or people inside the library to come up with their own list of people in your circle who are yes voters and getting them on that list.
And this is something that Alan would instruct us in.
Yes.
Yeah, the finer points of this.
Yeah.
He'll tell us.
Right.
Yeah, it sounded like Alan had a very clear script for like, okay, these are the dates. This is what we have to have this done by,
Right.
and these are the people that we're going to be in touch with. And then I thought this was really interesting, and I hope that we can do something like this with the SmartVan database. They did during the week the 2 days before the election, they paid, and it was a very small number. I think she said $18 for a robocall to go out. And it was like the president of the Chamber of Commerce who recorded the message that said, "Come out and vote. Voting is at such and such address. I'll be voting on that day." Or it was.
They paid $36 for two calls.
$36 for
one
two
the day
calls.
before and one the day of.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also called. There was a third call, but that was made by individual friends in the week that preceded
Yeah.
the vote.
So the total number of phone calls that people can expect were between 3 and 4, like grand total. We're not going to be. They weren't calling them, every week reminding or something else. It was just. I guess we'll have to talk to Alan about this. He has a very clear timeline for everything, and they did all of this within the weeks before. This was not months in advance.
So all of the meetings and everything was within a few weeks of the vote?
Yes.
The, Alan had wanted them to do a door-to-door campaign,
Mm-hmm.
but their vote was in March, and it was like,
And it snowed for
it was
2
too
months.
cold. So no one was interested in doing that, so they didn't
Sure.
do it, but we may be able to get something along those lines.
Yeah, okay.
Did they talk about, if this was released, like about the rendering, for example, how much was put out into the public before the committees, before the robocalls?
Did someone say that rendering was like visible in the library? Did
It was in the library, but it was also in the community. Every time they went to a group, they had copies of this, and they passed it out. So
But
they
before
they
that,
got
did
this
they-
out.
How far in advance?
I think that specific rendering like that was, large scale poster size in the library, visible to everyone.
Yeah, it
Well,
was very early.
This was November.
And the vote was in March.
And the vote
That's
was
Yeah,
in
it
five
March.
was in
months.
March.
Yeah.
So that's a
5
long
months.
time, I mean,
But now,
Right.
for us to wait,
We
you know,
we
a
need
week
to
or
We're
two.
talking July or August, aren't we?
we need to get on that.
Unveiling kind of thing.
But there is an issue.
Huh?
oh,
Huh?
I'm sorry?
There's 183 days.
To go.
But who's counting?
We are switching next week.
What two things to note is one of them is this is the Moffett Library. This has been the Moffett Library for 100 years or whatever it is.
Right.
So they're different. The difference between us and them is they're going back to their library, and this is largely the structure of that building. There is a couple added features to it. So, but yeah, this drawing is like a slam dunk.
Right,
So
yes, I know
ours
that.
is brand new.
But at
Okay.
what point did they, at some point, the public was let in on the fact that they were not going to abandon that building and build brand new? At what point they let the public know this is what the trustees have decided to do, which is rehab this building because it was damaged during Hurricane Sandy, Irene, or whoever. And we're going to add on and purchase, because they're also purchasing a land.
They purchased
They're-
land for two
right?
houses. Yeah.
How much in advance before they went to the vote? That's what
I think
because-
it was, originally they were going to vote in October,
Yeah, I think
and
so.
then everything got delayed. But they were in, months and months before October, getting information out to the community. So
exactly.
if we were to get information out in June now,
Mhm.
I don't think they would have considered that to be too early.
Right, and that's what I want. I don't
But
want
there's
to
an
wait.
issue with the
Zoning?
drawing, the design, because we need to get the design
Approved.
locally approved.
Actually, maybe Bernie, that your second point?
Yeah, I spoke to the building inspector's office, and the two points are, one, the area is zoned what they call RR, which means we need to get a variance for creating something other than a house, and that just needs to be approved by the planning board.
Right.
We just need to follow up and take those steps to at least get it. Do we do before or after the referendum? Clearly, you want to do before the referendum. Both of these items. The second item is this is also in the architectural design district, which is one of the cool districts that we have in Goshen. That yet another person can veto what we want to do, or tell us a better way to do it, or tell us how it must be based on the design from the neighboring area. So we need to again follow up with Ted Lewis. He was out actually, so he'll be back on Wednesday. I'll start with him. I can go talk to him and then find out who we might run these things by to get a feel for what other steps. And I think Ben Gailey is already on parts of this as well, because he actually posed the initial question in terms of zoning.
So we need to get on those agendas for those committees.
Yeah.
And with summer, sometimes it's hard to get, get people's attention. We could circulate the drawing and just put draft down in the corner, because in all likelihood, it's not gonna radically change, because it does blend, with the community. So,
Do we need to then? Do we, as a board, need to come up with a calendar of when all of the various village board, zoning board, when are they meeting, and then we, go and make our presentation, do
Definitely.
our pitch?
So we're gonna have to have
We need that,
our.
I know, but do we need it, do we do it now? Do we do it?
Should do it as soon as possible.
Will this be subject to a public hearing, do you know?
The planning board just decides, right? I don't think that's,
I don't know.
Yeah, they have
they
the
can
power to
decide
say
whether or not we
no.
can go through with it, and
Yeah.
voters tell us whether or not we can have it.
That's the main thing, I think. They can say no, they can say no or change it. That's
But
what-
a
So what are they
public
changing
hearing
it
doesn't
to?
need to be held to before the variance,
Uh,
before the board.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I don't
When's
think
the next
so.
planning board meeting, do you know?
No.
What do we need to change it to? It's RR now. And what
Well,
is-
we just need a variance.
Yeah,
The
we
zone,
just-
the zone is
just
not
a
gonna
variance.
change,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's not, they're not gonna,
Wasn't the other library already?
Could
was
be.
that?
It
What?
could have been.
it might
No,
have been,
well,
but
no,
it was
what
also
they
how
brought
many
that up
years ago?
because that the library that was defeated was going through the dormitory authority.
Mhm.
And so the state ed would be the approval for the building and the village gets bypassed.
How?
If it's being done by state ed, they have the authority to build a building without getting local approval. So
Ah.
we're not going through the dormitory authority, we're not going through state ed. So we have to work
Unless we
with
really,
the
really,
local
really get a hard
officials.
time from the school and the village.
Which we're not
No,
at
we're
this
not.
point.
No,
But
we're
I don't
not.
know the village,
No,
but
no,
the
we're
board,
not. As
the
far as
school
I know,
board-
we're not getting any trouble
Well,
from anyone,
you
and
know-
I don't anticipate we will.
This is
And I kind of, the architectural district, is that what you called it? I
Yeah.
kind of remember, not Megan, Paul mentioning something along those lines of being aware of that. It seemed to me like he knew that
Mhm.
when he designed this building anyway, and took that into account. I really don't anticipate we will have a lot of trouble, but yeah, the sooner
But
we
we
start
need to
on this,
do
the
with-
better.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
We need to do it.
I hope it's not complicated by it being, it's really town and village property, joint and rec, that, is it not? No, well,
No.
Our property
our
is
property
the
is in it.
library's property.
Right, it's our property,
Right.
it's
Yep.
in the village, and that's the
So-
only planning board we go through, okay.
Right, the town has nothing to do with it. It's,
Okay.
right, it's physically in the village, so we show up with cookies and, so I'm just looking at the zoning board and see if I can find, planning board, right?
Yes.
Planning board. Maybe I can find the next meeting. I love living in the future. Now, would that be a job for the physical resources committee, or is this
I think if we just say who's available, who
draw
can go,
straws
and I think if
um,
we divide it up into different, you know,
right.
somebody take the village, somebody take the zoning, somebody,
Okay,
take-
June 18th is their next meeting, or June 4th and June 18th, then July 2nd and July 16th. So that's 4 meetings coming up. June 4th I think is probably too soon, do you
Yeah.
think?
Mm-hmm.
So then the next one would be June 18th. That's what, 2 days, 3 days after our next, what?
Well, we're the 15th.
We're the
so
15th, so
yeah.
it's that Thursday.
and what do we need to figure out, what do we need to bring with us? Who do we need to bring with us in terms of the team that we're assembling?
I have no idea.
Is it worth it to go on the 4th? And sometimes they don't even meet. If they've got nothing to talk about,
Right.
I think they don't even meet,
Well,
so.
right, that's a good point.
So-
Maybe we
We're-
need to contact someone ahead of time and make sure they're meeting, and we wanna talk to you about whatever, cause we wanna let the public know as soon as possible, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
I've
And they
also,
probably wanna look
So
at
when
it
is the
before
4th?
they vote on it, we don't wanna land it on them and then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Should we start with a conversation with Paul and say these are our steps that we'd like to take, and
Yeah.
Alan Berger, because we're paying for their services?
We are,
So-
and I'm
Well-
sure neither one of them have never ever done this before, so I'm sure this is something
We
they're
could do
familiar
things
with.
in parallel.
Yeah, right.
No, but
right.
I mean, in terms of paperwork to bring with us, preparation,
Right,
you know.
so I
what-
think
I
Matt
think-
has a phone
I'll-
call to make
yeah.
tomorrow.
Well,
I've been
Two-
in
two-
contact with
two
Ben
phone
Daly already about this.
Okay.
He's well
Okay.
aware of what's happening, so he's
Alright.
probably the guy that should give us advice on how to proceed.
Sure.
He's on the
That's-
planning
He's,
board.
no, he's,
He's
our,
our construction manager,
no,
lawyer?
he's our lawyer for the.
Our lawyer.
Lawyer for the
I'll get
project.
it straight before we've
Right. I
hired
just
so
had a
many
talk with him
people,
right
I've
before that
lost
other
track of
meeting.
who's who.
Well, we may need
Right.
to have Paul or Megan go to the planning.
Right,
meeting.
true, but I'll
Right,
see what
right.
he,
Right.
you know.
So we, right, I think you're right, he's probably the first person
But
to
if you
call.
can get
And
that
it's
set
just-
up ASAP, that'd be
Okay, I'll talk to
Yeah.
him tomorrow.
I'm
So-
assuming they meet in the evening.
Thursday evenings, the
So
first
we're
and
sure
third
we
Thursday of
didn't
the month is
pursue
7:30.
a variance this last go
Town hall.
around, even going through the dormitory.
Planning board?
Planning board, yes.
Well,
It's
Laura,
a sure thing.
That's what Ben told me what he assumed, and
Oh,
then
this is
Laura
the town
Laura
confirmed.
board.
Engel
Yeah.
has
Oh,
no
I'm so
recollection
sorry, I
of
live
getting
at
the
the town.
variance.
Okay.
She
I
was
live
at the
in the
meeting
town and that's
a
just my
little while ago.
default.
Yeah. Oh, today?
She was at that meeting,
Village of Goshen, yeah.
Oh, that-
today at
Listening to
5:30,
Ruth and
representing
Kelly.
Friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And,
Okay,
she was
scratch
on the
that,
board
my
when it happened,
apologies.
whatever it was, 7 years, 8 years ago.
They meet on Tuesday.
Who does?
I'm sorry, I was giving you town board information, my mistake. Village planning board,
Oh, then I could go.
yeah. Let's see, they meet on Tuesdays, June 23rd and June 9th.
June.
Wow.
June 9th and the 23rd.
Yeah,
June 9th and the
hang on a
23rd.
sec.
So if we get our request in by the 9th for a meeting on the 23rd,
Yes,
they might discuss it on the 9th and say, good, come on the 23rd.
7:30?
7:30 Village Hall.
So the 9th, 7:30.
Is that what we're doing? We're
This
doing
is
the 9th?
cut off noon on June
Well,
9th,
maybe
so
just
that might
get some
be,
information.
To get on the
no, I think that
agenda.
might be to get on the docket, June 9th is to get on the, for the
23rd.
23rd.
Yes.
I think that's what that means, cause it says cut off noon, June 9th, so I would think that's for
Okay.
a meeting for the 23rd.
Because Ted Luce is usually pretty helpful also. I'll stop off tomorrow the next day.
Right.
And,
Okay.
and you get Ben on it from that side. And
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I have
Zeroing
heard
on it.
that our lawyer has been talking to the village attorney,
Has he? Good.
so,
That's
is that good?
do we know about this?
Yes.
Okay. No, there's some discussion, so that's a good thing.
That is a good
Mhm.
thing.
Well, depending on what questions are.
Yeah,
are-
right, depending on
lawyer
whether
has
they
asked.
hit it off or not.
What that discussion was.
It's seemingly all good, as long as the volume is kept low and the insults are at a minimum. So
So Matt, you're gonna,
I'll talk to Ben.
Ben Gailey
tomorrow, yeah.
and Paul, and just let everybody know what
Sure.
we're doing.
I just wanna make sure, well, you can check with, I'd like to get a confirmation on that whole story, not to say that there's, we just wanna get somebody in a position on one of those boards to confirm what we've heard, cause we haven't heard.
yeah, and really the goal is to actually see if we will run into a problem with the plans, with the draft plans as is.
Right.
Right.
If there's something that needs to be changed. I mean, in particular, the glass was mentioned. The glass entryway
Mm-hmm.
may or may not be at risk because of it's not historical,
Okay.
but it's
You don't
also
see it from the
not
street.
on Main Street, right? So
Quite visible from the street.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it could go either way. So that's what we need to find out.
What about the zoning board?
That's the planning board, that's the same.
But for a variance,
That's
wouldn't
the
it be
planning
the zoning board? To
That's
get a
what the
variance
plan-
of the zoning.
Right, but it's.
Oh, the
that's
zone.
what the-
Oh, right.
that's
So
what the
it's
planning
two
board
different.
does.
So they are two different things.
The
She's
planning
right.
board.
One is variance of the RR zone.
Mhm.
The other is approval of the building design from the architectural design
Mhm.
district person. So.
That's
So.
its official title?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the zoning board would grant the variance.
Mm-hmm.
Do we
For
have-
the zone, yeah.
So when does the zoning board meet?
I don't. Village.
Well, what was the
I'm-
discussion our lawyer had with their lawyer? Was it not fact-finding or
It's
what
a
we needed to
hello
do?
and Could just be introductory.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to, I mean, like I said, all I would know to do is ask Ted, who would just
Mhm.
point me in a direction anyway. And Ben might already be working in that direction
And I
too,
think
so
Ben-
between
I
the
think
two.
It
Ben's-
probably is.
Yeah.
Trying to resolve this before you guys have to be involved at all. I think they're gonna resolve it
Right.
on that level of legalities, but I'll talk to him and see what we can do to
That's kind of what they're
make sure
for.
we get what we want.
That's what lawyers are for. Okay, anything else about the new building, physical resources?
There were a lot of other ideas about how to get support, but we can get into that, when
When we
we're
talk to
closer
Mr.
to it,
Berger, you mean?
A lot of
Right, so when he
ideas.
suggests that you can,
Yeah.
you'll be able to reference what was and was not successful in Washington.
One thing that was interesting, there was no capital campaign.
That is interesting.
They decided that they should put all their energy into getting out the yes vote. And that they said we're going to have a capital campaign once the referendum is approved. And that money that we raise will reduce the amount we need to borrow. So we hope to borrow significantly less than the maximum that you approve based upon how much we can raise. Now, they did get the $25,000 grant, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It didn't sound like it was a strategy as much as it was.
A fallback.
Yeah, like it things just happened that way. It didn't sound like they were they meant to have the capital campaign afterwards. It sounded like they meant to. It didn't happen.
Right.
Is that what it sounded like?
Yeah, it was probably due to the people that were involved and the people that weren't involved, and they needed everybody's efforts towards the yes vote instead of.
Sure. That was a priority,
Yeah.
and that makes sense.
So, I'm looking at what they put together and what will the project cost, how will it be financed. The fundraising campaign has begun, and to date we have raised $621,000. Is that inclusive of the $500,000 from its building fund, or
I think that's the building fund.
you think some of it, the building, but that's not, they
That's not
say
fundraising.
fundraising campaign.
Yeah, I don't know what that, the origin of that money is,
Yeah.
because
That's quite a lot.
they said there was no capital campaign.
Where'd they get the money from?
I don't know.
Do they have an endowment set up?
What?
Down
Maybe.
Who knows?
No, I'm not sure.
Flood insurance.
We can argue that we have raised 600,000.
We already paid
Yeah.
off 650,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
for the land,
Yeah.
so.
And that is actually part of the whole total. Megan did factor that into our whole total,
Right.
at 650,000.
Yes, but,
Yes, but it's not nothing, we did
but it's
pay
not
for
the
it.
number we
It's
throw
not.
out there.
No, but it is going to be in that as part of that 8.9 or whatever, 650,000's already paid for, whatever we sell this building for will
Oh,
also go
and there's
for-
that too.
Right, whatever
Yes.
fundraising we can manage, that'll all go
Yeah,
in.
another thing we talked about at that meeting, what we need to talk about here, I've been hearing from people that they don't really wanna see us sell the building.
Mhm.
And I was thinking of us saying, we don't know what we're going to do with the building.
Right,
We're gonna, once the referendum is approved and we're moving ahead, the community's gonna have to decide what we should do.
mhm,
We'd like to get the Orange County Historical Society, the county historian, we'd like to get the genealogical people, we'd like to perhaps have our historical people, maybe they should be in this building.
mhm.
Share the facility. Rosemary Cooper talked about they need more rooms for groups.
Mhm.
So maybe those spaces that are designed for friends and maybe those spaces that are designed at the moment for the historical committee, or historical activities, maybe they should be in this building and those rooms should be, rooms for groups to come in and have space during the day.
And that's all to be decided after the referendum passes.
In other words, I think there are a lot of options out there, a lot of possibilities. I think if we simply say, we're selling it,
Mhm.
that's gonna produce
And
One
I
of the
think-
options is to
I
sell
don't
it.
think we should say anything about it then, because anything you say then puts an idea in people's, oh, well, you said, and it comes back and bites you later on.
Well, they're gonna say, what are you gonna do with the building?
And we haven't
Well-
decided yet.
There's gonna be a lot of people who would be upset if we didn't
I know,
sell the
that's what I'm
building
thinking
and put
too.
it towards paying off
Exactly,
this debt.
because there's plenty of
So-
people who are interested in this building. They were coming at us like a swarm the last time before the referendum even passed. So there was like $1 million bandied around for the price of this building. It's kinda hard to walk away from that, but I agree we shouldn't commit to anything until we've passed the referendum. But I don't think we should discuss all those other options you just said either, because then we're putting ideas out there that may or may not come to pass, and then
And it's taking away from the vote.
exactly,
Yeah,
and it takes the
that's
focus away from the important thing, which is
one
passing the
goal.
vote. this building is secondary, might even be tertiary, I don't even know if it's, you like that, that's good, residential only, not tertiary.
What if it's the fourth choice?
Well, you know what, I don't even know what that is, does anyone know what that is? Well, how does that go, the fourth choice, I don't even know.
Qua something.
Quad something, right, I don't know.
Quad-hearing.
It's fourth choice, that's what it is. Anyway,
Whatever we do, we gotta make sure to trumpet our flood control that we worked so hard to
that's
get in place
right,
in this building.
that's right.
Whatever
That's
it goes
right.
to.
Bring it on,
I
another
was
Irene
just
World.
marveling at it tonight when I looked at it, so.
Yeah, this tonight's putting it to the test. Anything else we wanna talk about under this topic?
Committee reports or physical resources?
The physical resources new building, before we move on to any more committee reports.
Do you want to talk about the AC, or no, we'll wait till the regular meeting for that?
The what?
Oh, we can put that off, yeah.
Okay.
I still need one more bid.
Okay.
The what? Did you say fencing?
AC.
AC.
Oh,
the
I'm glad you said
fencing's
that, though.
All right.
Well,
But,
We should
have
talk
to-
about the fencing.
Yeah.
Still, I was there, you may know, on Saturday. The groundskeeper said he would take down the three sections
The down-
that
the
are
ones that
falling
all
down.
stand,
He would do that. I don't know if that's copacetic, but he would do that. But it's still, he's having to pick it up every other day or whatever.
We're on the list. I have a
Alright.
few weeks ago I hired Ketchum, but we're on there. I'm not sure when they penciled us in to take it out, but they've been hired to take out actually 3 sections, because I went over there and looked
Right.
at it with them. It was really 3
Yeah.
that needed to go, and they're gonna pull off the door to the nuns' quarters and store them in there and put the door back on.
Just
Um,
crap.
I was out of town and I visited a construction site, and they had, instead of the orange, which was my original thought that we could put in some of that orange
Mhm.
fencing, and now in lieu of the discussion that it is a historical district, we don't
Maybe
wanna
that's
put,
not-
Yeah.
it's not very pretty to
appropriate.
put orange fencing for how many,
No.
a year or 2 years, you know.
Yes.
They had fencing that was plastic, but it had an imprint of ivy on it.
Oh,
So it looked like there was ivy
Mm.
growing through it, so it makes it a little more aesthetically pleasing to the eye than just a wall of orange.
And in the winter, we'll call it holly.
That's right.
Good, very
Ivy,
done.
holly.
It'll be so festive.
that was actually one of the things that Ted's admin mentioned, is to talk with him about what we're doing for the fence, what we're doing for the sign that we have up there,
Okay.
because again, it's all in that same district, and like you mentioned,
Mhm.
somebody's going to have a say in what we do if it's not.
I mean, the house
It's not
across the street,
aesthetically-
do we really wanna create an eyesore for them?
Mhm.
Or, you know, whatever
No.
houses.
Mhm.
We never wanna turn a yes vote into a,
Right, an active campaign to shut
Let
us
me
down
get
because they don't
even.
like it, yeah.
so.
But that all rolls into the same thing. We have to, in order to get a new sign, we have to get approval for the design.
Mhm.
So all
You
of that
sign
has to,
first, yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
then in order to put something in the paper, even the draft, which I think would be a nice first step, and then have a real unveiling with the actual elevation drawing and everything else.
So
But we'd have to get approval first.
who's the real driver of this? Is it Alan Berger? Who do we need to talk to or do to start this?
No, I think Alan is not.
Alan's an advisor, he doesn't
Yeah.
do
I know he's
anything
an
for us.
advisor.
Right, no, he doesn't actively
Okay,
do
but
anything
who?
for us. Well,
Is it Paul
Paul
to get
has to
something?
provide us with certain things, but our lawyer is actually the one who makes sure everything's lined up properly.
Well, okay, no, we're talking like, we can break it apart, 'cause we're talking one thing is the sign.
The
We're
sign.
we're talking about putting something over what's up there now.
No, we're talking
Yeah.
about
Creating a new one.
Well,
removing the
yes.
one that's there and putting a new one with the new drawing.
Since
Right.
it's
Well,
a
you could
temporary,
use the same post, but you.
No,
e-
right,
even
but
though
the-
it's been there for 5 years,
More
it's
than
technically
that,
a temporary sign. So I
Sure.
think Ted might have the ability to just sign off on anything we put up there based on what he knows for the district.
So,
Right.
why aren't we working towards getting something?
We absolutely
Because we
can.
have to get
yeah.
approval
Yeah.
of the.
No, but we have to get something to show what we're gonna put up there, no? Isn't that
Right,
part of it?
that's and so that we have to start with Paul and make sure
Right.
that he can
Right.
give it
Whether
to
it's
us.
an
And
8.5 by 11, whatever, this is what
Right.
we hope to put up there, okay? Yeah.
right. So
Future home of
I think it's gonna be easier just to say it'll be the same size as what's there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll resolve
right,
that.
and I think we should
Posts.
just use that as our default, cause it's already there, which would cause less friction than changing it to something completely different.
Right.
Right, whatever the measurements are, we take that to a sign maker, here, do.
And thankfully, that sign is not falling. In fact, it's probably holding up the fence, so.
Yeah, the reason that section hasn't come down is because that sign's there. But, yeah, but in order to make a new sign, we have to get an okay for the elevation, and we have to get an okay from Paul, don't we? To use aren't those
drawing.
drawings not ready for prime time, didn't he say?
They prefer that we wait a little while, but
Right.
I think the biggest sticking point is just to make sure that the design that they've come up with is the design that's gonna really be the one that we
That
because what you
design.
don't want is to put something out and then suddenly 3 weeks later have a whole different, because
Well,
for some
'cause
reason it
the
didn't
sign that's up
fly.
there.
That's my only
So
concern.
it's the planning and zoning board that.
Right.
Right, we have to make sure that, right, exactly, because the
So
sign that's
number
up there
steps.
is of a library we were never going to build.
Because the
So-
thing to keep in mind is really, you guys, it's your, you've bought that, it's your intellectual property, and you can really do whatever you want with it, I think. I mean, legally, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
It's more a matter of timing and how much control you wanna give to these other agents that are helping us do this. But ultimately, really, you guys do whatever you want. I mean, you can turn
Mhm.
around and put that out tomorrow. I'd call Paul up and say, we want a nice laminated, you know what I'm saying? But
East size.
Right, which
round,
I say that the biggest sticking point is just making sure that the design they've come up with is something that you can actually have built, because you wouldn't want the embarrassment of having everyone excited about something and then say, oh, the planning board says we have to take this whole side down and we want
And
to,
it
that's
would-
the worry, but.
a bigger, along with that, it would harken back to the previous.
Right, we don't wanna look like
Because that's
we're going
exactly
in
what happened the
circles and
last
don't,
time.
right.
The drawings, the elevation, everything, here's a library that we're not actually building, can you vote on it? And that's what happened. So the picture that's on that sign now was not going to ever be built, because
I
that
think it was more the
architect.
price tag than anything else.
Right, no, the point is, no, we had a problem with that architect, that library was never going to be built, because the architect got fired, he sued us, we had to pay him off, it was disgusting. But that was the picture we had out there, vote our new library, but this isn't actually the library, we don't wanna do that again.
So the steps we're deciding on tonight is we're gonna go to the planning board,
And make sure they're okay
make sure they're
with,
okay, and then we're
that
gonna
this doesn't
contact
violate
Paul
any,
And we're going to the
Well,
zoning
municipal
to
board.
put up a
code
new
things.
sign.
So we
Right,
have.
just to make sure that that library can be built on that
Right.
property.
Because
Because if it's a draft, at least we can fine tune it, and
Right.
it'll look pretty much the way
I
the
was just gonna
draft
say the same
looks.
thing, it's not
Right,
gonna
it
be a
doesn't have to
total
be
redo.
100%, but if it's 80% of what we actually end up with, then it's still the same library.
So we have to get, maybe we already have it, the floor plans. We have to get what Paul knows is needed for presenting to a planning and
Right,
zoning board.
that's right,
Right.
that's
So
absolutely.
that in hand, we go, we talk,
We go
and
and
get
talk,
approval.
we send Brian, he'll go,
Well, if it's on other than a Thursday, I can go.
there you go.
I mean, I'm hoping
It's
that
on
I'll talk
Tuesday,
to,
it's Village,
Yeah.
cause I was mistaken.
I know, I heard.
I know, I'm sorry, I live in the town. I defaulted the town when I
I've
looked
seen
things
that.
How
up.
many people are going on the 23rd, cause we cannot have a quorum?
At a planning board meeting?
Oh, you could, this is
We can
our-
just- we can
we're
just not
Our
decide.
meeting of I mean, we're not all gonna show up.
It doesn't matter if we all
Doesn't
show up,
matter.
we're not
Is it?
voting.
It's not our meeting.
It's not our meeting.
Right,
it's
we're
their
not meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's an issue.
But
'Cause we
wait,
can all go to a party together.
but what is the plan?
As long as we don't
We
show
can't
up
talk
together.
about
We can't-
libraries.
That's
we
right.
can't just
so if we
decide
talk
anything,
about
right.
football or something, we're good.
So what is the
Okay.
plan? Is it to go, was it the 9th or 7th?
I think the 9th, you have to tell them that we wanna be there for the 23rd, that's how I understood it, cut off noon the 9th. Am I misunderstanding that?
I just disagree with you. I think that the noon is the set for the agenda of the 9th. Set it, the
Yeah, I
agenda,
wouldn't be
set
surprised.
it
Well,
noon,
because
and
it's,
meeting at 9.
it's the
my
meeting,
gut
it's
feeling.
in, if you.
They don't need that many days from the 9th to the 23rd.
I know, but that's, I'm telling you, it looked funny.
We
Here,
might
if
not
you
have
wanna-
everything we need
we
to
might,
go on the 9th.
But,
You know, if we
Alright.
need
Mhm.
to
Well,
speak to
yeah.
Paul or,
Whoever's
Yeah.
gonna, you're making the call, right?
I'm
You'll
gonna,
find
yeah,
out.
I wanna,
You'll find
this,
out
so
what
this
we
may
need.
be moot, this may, I'm hoping that a lot of this is being solved as we speak, that's being solved, with the lawyers and with
The
the.
lawyers.
So hopefully, and if not, then they'll give us explicit
It says
directions about how to proceed.
work session / regular meeting, one list of dates, and then next to it, it says cutoff / noon, and another list of dates 2 weeks prior to the meeting. So I don't know if it's because it's the planning board, they wanna actually look at the plans and have time to discuss it, and, because it's not just oh,
Yeah.
here, this isn't like just going over
Well, I think a
minutes
phone
from the
call-
previous meeting, it's,
Sure. Phone call to Paul also, who's
Yep.
probably gone through this, he would know what
Yeah, I'll
is-
call him tomorrow as
is
well.
brought to the meeting or meetings.
And I'll
Sure,
ask if
and
he's
what would we
aware of the
need?
fact that we've just heard that this is in some other district that we hadn't heard of before. He should know, you know.
Yeah, he
I'm
should.
sure he's looked into this, but
Yeah.
if not, he'll
Yeah,
be
we-
able to.
What's that?
You're right.
Yeah, because it's the planning board, it's not just the town board or something,
Is Debbie on that board?
it's, Scott Wall, Elaine McClung, Mike Torelli, Rebecca Lafargue, and Adam Brosey, that's who's on the board. That's what it says right on the website.
Isn't he the former?
Didn't Elaine
I
McClung
believed
come
you.
to our
What's that?
meetings?
I know, I'm just busting Carol's chops because she didn't believe me when it said
Elaine McClung
that.
come to one of our meetings. Wasn't she here recently? Elaine
What's that?
McClung. Elaine McClung, wasn't she here recently?
She was a book trustee years ago, but
Yeah,
she,
No, no,
she
I
did
mean
visit
recent.
us,
She's a big
yes.
library supporter.
Yes, but she was
She
here
was
Yeah,
somebody
recently.
we
that
like
actually
that,
came to
yeah,
our
we
meetings,
like
right?
that. Well, we have to
She
make
was
sure
here
she's there on
recently.
the 23rd
Yeah.
then. Yeah,
She's
so-
seen.
No, they're all
Yeah.
supporters.
She's seen. the
I know,
pictures.
I know.
I think
And
know,
I
she
don't
was here
imagine we
recently.
really, I think
She
this
was
is
here
something we
recently.
have to do just so we did
Meet the
it.
candidates.
And I don't imagine we're gonna have
Yes.
any trouble.
Meet the candidates, she was
That's
here.
right, that's right. Right, so we have until the noon on the 9th, June 9th, to give them paperwork or whatever Paul deems we need. Or if you wanna call somebody and find out
For the
what
meeting on the 23rd.
for the meeting on the 23rd, I guess they have to review it first so that they can then meet and decide.
I would think you discuss it with them, and then they discuss it on their own,
No idea,
Mm.
so.
I don't know. Okay,
Okay.
are we done now? Can we go on to community resources, is there anything?
I was just thinking in terms of community resources that, and it was something that you had mentioned in terms of your conversation with Ruth Mannion, and something that in conversations around town, a lot of conversations during the parade for some reason about the library.
Well, they
It's
all
like,
know you're on the board.
library, right? When is it true that there's a new library coming? Is it true?
Mm-hmm.
It, you know, and these are people who I thought were reading the newsletter, and I'm like, oh, you don't read the newsletter.
I wrote that
Come
lovely
on. And in terms of circles of influence, or you know, and I'm starting to compile names of people who are supporters of the library who have said, you know, give me a call, I will help in any way I can.
Mm-hmm.
So should we start doing that in
That's-
terms of our own
Mhm.
circles?
That's one of the
Okay.
things that we were said at the meeting, that every
Right.
board member has to come up with a list of people that he or she thinks will be a supporter.
Okay.
in
And then
this
they can
process.
contact their,
And
and
then
so
the
forth
Friends
and so
group will
on.
take that list and work with it.
okay.
Sorry, while we're talking about community resources, I am the chairperson, but I don't really know what it means. So I'd like to talk about that for a moment, if you all could chime in on that, what you would expect me to do. Is it in this big blue binder that I just received, Carol? No?
No,
Okay.
not really.
Okay. All right, so
Well, so far, it's been mostly
newsletter.
helping out with the newsletter. The letter from the library board itself that goes in the newsletter is the responsibility of community resources.